So I had the book A Devil Went Down to Georgia by Deb Londu. It's the middle of the night or maybe early morning when Tony says that it is time to go collect the other half of the $25,000. The characters in this book is Lita, which is a victim, her husband Jim, and then the quote-unquote trucker Tony Harwood. This book is like a true crime book that talks about the murder of Lita. She's a black woman from Atlanta, Georgia. She's very powerful. She's just a very independent woman, and she's appreciated by her family, her parents. She just takes a lot of people into consideration, and she's very, strong-minded, and she could do a lot of things on her own, and that's what makes her like a powerful woman. So Lita was basically shot and killed, and she was going through a divorce with her husband. Her husband is a rich white man, and they are both living in Atlanta, Georgia. So basically, like, their whole relationship had been messy from the beginning of the book. When before their wedding, they had a lot of issues with a prenup and just a lot of things that the husband wanted that Lita did not want to do, and it led into a very risky marriage, and it caused a lot of drama in their marriage, and Lita's parents weren't really a fan of him, and it was just different because this was at the time of when racism was still around, um, the civil rights movements and things like that. And he didn't like how close like she was to her family or anything. Like, he wanted her to be like all for him, and he just didn't like how she could basically live without him, although she didn't choose to until, the downfall in their marriage. But he didn't like how independent she was. And so she was shot and killed. So, Lita was killed on January 16, 1987, at her doorsteps as she was walking out to go to the final steps, sign the papers of the divorce. Like, she's no longer married after when she returns back home. This was the end of an era. Like, she was done after this, and she walks out and she sees a man disguised as a flower guy, and she assumes that it's her husband, like, sending her this because he doesn't want her to leave. He didn't like the fact that she wanted a divorce, and so she's thinking, oh, he's trying to get me back, try to win me over, trying to finalize this divorce or anything. So the flower guy handed her a box of pink roses, and before she could even get any words out or anything, keep in mind she's thinking that these are from her husband. But before she could get any words out or anything, she ended up being shot and was killed right at her doorsteps. And she didn't even end up making it, to the courts to finalize her divorce. And so that's basically how she ended up dying, because a man disguised as a flower guy who she thought was, sent from her husband because he had so much money, he had people that worked for him. So she's thinking, but she didn't know the man. She was a stranger, so that's why I was kind of off to her at first. But she still didn't think anything of it. She's still thinking, her husband sent this man. So, of course, everyone suspects that the husband is the one who did it because no one was around. They just saw her, they found out she was dead, but no one was around to witness this murder. So everyone's suspecting the husband, because of how it all played out, the type of timing. Like, it's the day that she's going to get like divorced. It's the day that she's gonna be free. Who wouldn't suspect that the husband did so? So, um, he was very he. The reason he was like, suspected so much, and people weren't just like, oh, it could have been someone else, because how controlling he was. And you notice that throughout the book, like, he's very controlling, and you could just tell that he wanted her to follow everything he said. He didn't want her to have basically her own life. Like he wanted her to be his shadow, basically, following him everywhere. And you know that's just how he wanted her to be. So everyone's suspecting that the husband did it because of his personality and things, and how it all played out. Like, this is the morning that she's going to finalize this divorce. Of course, he wouldn't want that if he wants her to keep it with him. So why not suspect that the husband did this? Who else would we think did this? So this investigation took nearly 20 years because, like, it had a lot to it, and there was no evidence to say that the husband was the one who murdered her. And who else were they to like suspect? They didn't think the parents did it because, like, she was real close to her parents. She loved her parents. Why would they assume that the parents were the one? And then, like, who else are they to suspect if the husband is the one that shows? He was also very, like, aggressive, and so they're like, I mean, what else? Who else are we here to suspect? So this investigation had took a long time because there was no physical evidence at all that the husband was the one who murdered her, and they did not suspect anyone else. They just suspected the husband. The investigation also took a long time because the husband had a lot of connections because of how wealthy he was. He was a millionaire, and I mean, not like, the beginning of the seven figures bracket. He was a millionaire. He had a lot of money. So, he had a lot of connections with, the law, and just people in general. So, keep my hands clean for a little bit or whatever. He just had, like, a lot of connections, he felt whether they felt that he did it or not. Others felt that he did it. You know, when you know people, it's easier to, backtrack and hold off for a little bit. It's easier to, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's easier for you to get more grace in things when you, like, know people, because although they're still not technically following the law because they're not investigating properly, they just have it's just a lot of favors. Like, do this for me, I'm going to return this for you. So that's why this case took so long, as well as the time that it happened. Lita was a black woman, and back then they didn't really take those cases serious, especially when the victim is, African American, and then the defendant is a white man. It's just like the timing and how it played out and stuff. They just had to take so long to investigate this case, and nearly 20 years is when they finally found out, like, what happened because of the person who confessed to it. So the case did take a long time. It wasn't like it wasn't even a year. It was a whole 20 years, around the 20-year span, and her mom was, like, confident in it all. She was not backing down. So my personal connections to this book is Lita's mother and how strong and powerful she was. Like, this Lita's mom reminds me so much of my mom, because my mom is very, like, powerful. She's very, she just has this mindset, like, she's very confident. She knows when she has something in her mind, like, she's gonna stick to that. It's very hard to change her. She's very, like, opinionated, but most of the time she has the receipts to back it up. So she talks like, I know what I'm talking about. So I feel like Lita's mom reminds me a lot of my mom because of the whole story, going over the case and stuff. Her mom was there, and she was basically like, no, that's not true. That's my daughter didn't do like she had a mouthful to say during the whole time throughout this case. And that's literally how my mom is with her kids. Like, she knows her kids, she knows the people that we hang around. Like, Lita's mom knew the type of husband he was. So she had to say something. Like, she didn't sit there and just like pray about it. She prayed as well. But she didn't sit there and just watch it play out. She was a part of the play. Like, she was there during this case. And also, I have a connection to this because my uncle, um, my mom's brother, he died back in about like the 1960s. Well, my mom's mom, so my grandma's brother. I didn't mean to say mom. He died back in the 1960s. He was killed by a white man, and they didn't end up finishing the case till about 1993. That's 33 years, which actually took longer than, you know, her case. But as well as these cases take so long because, they didn't have as much stuff as we have now from technology and stuff like that. It's just, it was harder to, get stuff done back then. And so these cases just took like a pretty long time because you had to like really, really, you know, use your time to, get to the bottom of stuff. So that's the reason these cases took so long. Academic response. This book really wasn't that difficult to read to me. Like, as a high school student, I did not find this hard as like other books that I've read that were a little difficult to where I didn't understand them. I actually did not find this book that hard. And I feel like it's like perfect for a high school reading level. Like, it really wasn't, just so difficult to read to where I was giving up after every page. And the author also made it like really easy to read because she wrote the book like she was a journalist. Like, she's just going on a rant. Although that's not like the format or anything, but that's just like how I read this book because I mean it's not her life. So she's talking to us about someone else and it's just like this is her take on it too. So she's, writing this book and she's keeping it entertaining, Even in the small moments, it was like, oh my God, like, what's about to happen? That's just how I took it, and that's how I like the way she wrote the book or whatever. And then also, after like a few pages, like the part of the wedding, she added pictures in there. She just kept the book like really entertaining, because as high school students, we like to see pictures in books. We miss picture books. We don't like just reading regular books. So I like the way she did that by adding a few pictures in there. I recommend this book to people who are, advocates for women and just people who are wanting to enter the social justice field because it gets into depth with all of that and it just talks to you and it really speaks to people. And Lita's mom, like, she was an advocate for women. It could really, like, boost your confidence a little bit as a man reading this, as a young man reading this. Like, I just feel like it could boost a woman's confidence because she was really confident in this book. So yes, I give this book a 4 out of 5. I like this book surprisingly because I do not like reading true crime books. This is not my first true crime book, but I do not like reading them because, I tend to have thoughts that are like, oh my God, this could happen to like anyone, you know? So that's the reason why I give this book a 4 out of 5 because it was still kind of like scary because I don't like hearing about death. Like, I don't like watching Force 48. I don't like doing any of those things. So surprisingly, I like this book, but I don't think I would read any more true crime books because I just don't like hearing about death. So, yes, but it was a very entertaining book. And also, I don't like reading. I just don't like reading. So, that's another reason why this was a 4 out of 5. But, again, I do like the way the author read it. And I hope that you choose to read the book because the ending part, it's very, like, wow. Once we find out what happened, it's very wow. But, yes, I had the pleasure of reading A Devil Went Down to Georgia.